Derek and I called a meeting today to go over some recent Missouri and Kansas legislative issues that we think deserve a shout out. There's a lot to go over, but I think everyone will enjoy what we have to say.
Plus, we're employing a little added incentive. Oh man, what happened to the donuts?
All right, everyone, thanks for coming. I think we're about ready to begin. Is everybody ready? Let's start off by talking about a few issues that happened in Kansas this year. Now, I know this issue's been on everybody's mind because I know it's sure been on mine. Patent trolls are individuals who harass business owners by attempting to extort fees from realtors on alleged patent infringements. Kansas Senate Bill 38 put an end to this by creating massive civil penalties for them. It passed the House on 115 to 0 vote. It's a nuanced issue, but I've got a pretty good way of explaining complicated things to people in a way they can understand. Okay, next up, mandatory radon testing. Yes?
What's radon?
Radiation.
Godzilla monster.
Actually, it's a harmful form of radiation that builds up in basements when they're not properly vented. Right now, it's not mandatory for property owners to test for radon when they put their homes on the market, but the Kansas legislature is looking into making it so. KCRAR and KCRAR are against mandatory testing, so we're going to keep close tabs on this issue to make sure it doesn't happen. Okay, now I saved the best for last.
You mean my part of the presentation?
I mean mortgage debt cancellation. The mortgage debt cancellation is one of the largest issues in real estate right now. This federal legislation could potentially save homeowners thousands of dollars in income tax they would be forced to pay in phantom income they never received due to forgiven mortgage payments in a short sale. There's a bipartisan bill in the U.S. Senate that could extend this act through 2016, and we're doing our part to support this bill. Okay, that pretty much wraps it up for the Kansas side. Derek, you want to talk about Missouri?
Absolutely. So on the Missouri side, first we're going to talk about House Bill 385, the so-called correspondence bill. House Bill 385 was passed by the legislature and signed into law on June 6th. It defines correspondence in terms of a real estate transaction as any written or electronic communications that are ephemeral in nature.
Did you say epidural communications? Like when a doctor puts you to sleep? Because this meeting's putting me to sleep. I think he said feminine communications. What would he know about feminine communications anyway?
Ephemeral, from the Greek word ephemeris, meaning short-lived or brief or fleeting. Can anyone use ephemeral in a sentence?
Yeah, I wish this boring meeting were more ephemeral in nature.
For our purposes, this means communication by texts or instant messages between you and a buyer or seller that are not part of the transaction. They don't have to be kept.
Texts?
No.
Tweets?
No.
Instagrams? Snapchats? Butterbrickles? Facebook posts?
No. No. Not a thing. And no. Okay, is everybody clear on what we're talking about? Excuse me for just a minute. My kid sent me a picture of our cat. See, now this is an example of an ephemeral communication. And speaking of good tax programs, we're continuing to fight to preserve the mortgage interest deduction at the federal level. The mortgage interest deduction has helped make homeownership more affordable for families since 1913, and more than 75% of homeowners have claimed the MID. Eliminating MID will reduce home values by 11% overnight, weakening the housing market. And a strong housing market is key to a strong U.S. economy.
MID! MID!
Overall, I'd say the meeting went pretty well. We covered some pretty important bills, and I think everyone really paid attention.
And I love to see people so passionate about realtor advocacy.
Plus, there were no interruptions. Probably the best thing that could ever happen from...
Hey, you want to see a picture of my cat?